Hey guys, it's Sean and Dave from Saturday Morning Cartoons here, and we want to give a shout out to some fantastic people who have gone over to our Patreon account to support this podcast. So we need to give a huge shout out to Derek Haynes,
Alex Kazanis,
Carson Clark,
Jamal Newman,
Jason Woods,
Melanie Harker,
Allison Keene,
the one and only Sean Paul Ellis.
Oh, and the wonderful David Trumbore.
Now, it might sound kind of strange that we're thanking ourselves and other familiar names that you know from the podcast, but we really want you guys to know that we are putting our hard-earned dollars into the show as well, so it's only fair, if we're asking you to do the same, that we did it first. And even if you can't contribute anything to a monthly Patreon, we just ask that you go and share the Patreon link and just let people know about the show if it's something you enjoy. So again, you can head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons, make a contribution, or just share the wealth. We appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening.
And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from under the sea, or maybe also in space for some reason, I'll be your co-captain, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, they call him the Red Noah. It's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, bud?
David. I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm fine. Where did that name come from? It's such a very specific name.
With the Red Noah?
Red Noah. It's like a weird combination, like biblical and Viking. I don't know where that comes from.
It's because I've got a little bit of red hair left, mainly in the beard.
Yeah.
And I love operating in the ocean as well as also out in outer space.
Man, I learned something new about you each and every week, but I'm
Yeah,
glad to have you on the crew tonight. Red Noah, pleasure to serve under you, Captain.
Want to also be very clear. Love the little pendant that you're wearing around your neck.
I got it as like an orphan gift. Do you have that where you're from?
Oh yeah. We're all parts of the Dead Dad Club tonight.
Yeah. Everybody. This is a cartoon for all orphans. All orphans get a gift. Some orphans get better gifts than others. Some people get actual gifts, and some people just get to cradle their dead parent for a while. But I mean, it's all fair in alien invasion war.
Wow,
of course, we're talking space carrier Blue Noah, also known as Thundersub, tonight. This is another listener suggestion. We'll get to that in a minute. But Sean, buddy, what is the background on this particular anime series?
Space Carrier Blue Noah is otherwise known as Uchu Kubo Blue Noah, is a science fiction anime television series produced by Office Academy, which ran in Japan from 1979 to 1980. It was later distributed overseas in English by West Cape Corporation under the name Thundersub. The series is also called Anti-Spaceship in many Spanish-speaking countries. The first episode was originally broadcast as a feature-length TV special to introduce the series, which was later split into 4 30-minute episodes for rebroadcast by Japanese local television stations.
Now, let me ask you this. Were you familiar with this one before we watched it for the episode?
I was totally familiar with this because we watched it earlier this year when it was called Macross.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It's funny though because Sean just mentioned this aired from 79 to 80. Macross didn't come out until 84.
It's still screwing with me, man. I'm really like the character design on this when we get into it is
not just the character design. I mean, like almost beat for beat, how the action plays out, what the inciting incident is, how we get our heroes in. I mean, obviously the big difference is sort of the mech versus Thundersub difference. I love whatever this is because even the different countries, like when they were translating the name, they were just like, I don't know what to do with this. Is it a submarine? Is it a spaceship? What are we doing here? What
would have been a better name though? I mean,
Thundersub is a pretty sweet name.
Thundersub is a pretty badass name, but I mean to have your dad just like as his dying words just be like Thundersub, son, Thundersub. I would have been like, I don't know, old man. Like,
I would have just been like, well, he died from a stroke. So
you just seem like it's a little bit of delirious kind of ramblings going on right now from a man who's being crushed to death.
It just there are so many times where the word Thundersub comes up in the American English dub that were just so this show was polarizing for me because there were moments that are like really emotional and really heartfelt and really got me invested in the characters because they handle it in like a really mature and responsible, like adult way. It's not kid stuff. It's not light. There's some gnarly stuff that happens in the show. But then when the next word out of your mouth is Thundersub, I'm sorry, man, but I wrestled back and forth with this whole thing. But at the same time, like Space Carrier Blue Noah, I don't know what that means. Space carrier, I guess, but not when it's a submarine under the ocean.
I mean, it's so this is what's confusing for me is that we have obviously two forms of transportation. Yep. We have like some type of sea-based transportation, yep, and we have air and space transportation, which I'm going to lump together as one for sake of the argument here. Yep. But it's really hard because you can't be you couldn't say something like space carrier sea sub. You would have been like, that's.
I would have been okay with space carrier sea sub.
That actually, there's a lot of alliteration in that, and
I like it.
I feel bad for saying that, but now I'm kind of just like, well, that really may have actually been a pretty good name for this.
Like SCC sub, I'd have been totally fine with. Ooh. Or SCCS, I'm here for that.
Oh.
I know C doesn't start with a C, but it's still C for me, so SCCS, I like it. Law and Order SCCS.
Also, they could have just called this Sequest. Yeah. And I would have been cool with that too.
Jonathan Brandis, R.I.P. So,
oh man,
there were so many things just about the title that got me hung up. But also, I had to put my like knowledge of physics aside. Granted, it's not extensive, but it's enough to know that this shit is not literally going to fly in this cartoon. But I loved it. Before I get into what the show is actually about, we mentioned earlier on that this was a listener suggestion. Would you like to read that listener suggestion for us?
Sure, absolutely. So this comes from Facebook, from our buddy Oleg. He says, "Hi Sean, or hi Dave and Sean. I'm a big fan of your podcast, even if you're sometimes a bit too rough on the shows." Smiley face. Guess what, Oleg? This isn't going to be any different. Anyway, I would love if you could dissect Thundercub. I would love if...
This is my favorite, the Junior Thundercats series. Thundercats.
Man. Anyway, I would love if you could dissect Thundersub, aka Space Carrier Blue Noah. It's a show I remember fondly from my childhood. Cheers! By the way, I was one of those Russian kids confused by the strange Japanese Transformer versions debuting in the early 90s, and I can remember it was quite fun.
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about or what Oleg's talking about, you'll have to go back to our Transformers suite from roughly this time last year.
Man, don't do it.
I still think you should. Just because it was like there were a lot of Japanese Transformers series that came out that never hit the airwaves here in America, or at least they arrived in very different ways. But when they got to Russia, they were all kind of out of order, and our poor buddy Oleg there watched these things without knowing what the hell was going on, which is kind of how I felt at sometimes watching this show tonight. So I feel like it goes around.
But all I remember is last year at this time watching, I think it was 5 consecutive weeks of nothing but Transformers.
Bad Transformers.
And wanting to lose my mind. If you are super, super interested in this, you can go back. It starts at episode 112, which is regular Transformers, and it wraps all the way up with the Combiner Wars for episode 116.
So those bookends aren't bad, but then you got stuff like Master Force or Head Masters, or I don't remember.
You've got Super God, Master Force, the Headmasters, yep. And we also just had regular robots in disguise there too.
Yeah, there's some rough patches in there.
Yep.
Ugh. But I digress.
Man.
All right.
But if I was interested, now that we have Oleg suggesting this show, if I was interested for the people who are unindoctrinated to the insanity that is Thundersub, Dave, break it down for me, buddy.
Yeah, stick with me here because some of these words are going to sound like they belong somewhere else, but just hang in and we'll get through this together. So set in the year 2052, Earth has managed to find peace until the arrival of the Death Force, ruthless aliens from Gotham, a planet in a dying solar system. Yes, that's Gotham, the planet. These aliens are desperately searching for a new home. Attacking the Earth with a massive satellite ship called Terror Star, the aliens proceed to terraform the planet to make it their own. For mankind, there is one hope. It's up to Colin Collins and a small band of his fellow surviving students to crew a top-secret submersible vessel that can fight the invaders at sea or in space. I give you Space Carrier Blue Noah, a.k.a. Thundersub. This, straight up off the bat, well, it sounds insane because it sounds like they're drawing from... It feels like Ready Player One, like they're just drawing from a bunch of pop culture things and mashing them together into their own adventure. Right. But I would honestly love to know where this came about, because I don't think it was based on a manga. I don't think it was based on any kind of other comic book. I think it was just an original video production, but they drew from, obviously, Gotham comes from not just like the Batman series, but also just like the Gothic kind of name and those kinds of things. They don't do anything with it other than take the name Gotham. Once we get into the plot, you'll see some other comic book inspirations kind of lend themselves to this. Maybe some other popular sci-fi of the late 70s and early 80s shows up in this as well. So some interesting stuff going on, but I like what they did with it. We'll leave it at that for now, because now it's time to talk about the theme song. Sean, buddy, how did this one strike ya?
I enjoyed this because it came in with sort of a military harumph at the top. And I didn't, obviously coming into the show and trying to remove myself as much as possible from, Googling this or looking it up or reading too much. I really feel that the best way that I can sometimes digest these new shows, especially these listener suggestions, because I don't know if you guys love us or if you hate us or if you're trolling us.
I'm not real sure.
But sometimes I'm just like, if I don't have a frame of reference, I want a clear mind going in, so that I can either really appreciate or I can just eviscerate whatever your suggestion is. And in this case, I didn't know what to expect, but this kind of came in with this military pump that I was not really ready for. And it kind of got me shoulder shimmying a little bit. I was like, yeah, this feels pretty good. I'm happy about this. And then I was a really big fan of that. It kind of had that exposition about everything that was going on, as Dave mentioned sort of from the description of the show, that really kind of led you in to understanding it and kind of framing what was going to actually happen in this show. So you kind of get an encapsulation of everything in that 45 seconds that we have this military march.
Yeah, now last week when we talked Road Rovers, I believe it was the one that did we praise Road Rovers for having a roll call, for having a catchy theme, for having...
They did. We praised it for having a roll call, but we also screamed at it because you could basically not make out a single word that was being said. And so it just became dogs and stuff. Dogs and stuff. That was, it was just dogs and stuff.
But for this one tonight, it's all instrumental until you get to the exposition sort of narration. But yeah, to Sean's point, it's very, it's got this kind of military march to it. It's very rousing. It's very patriotic, even though it's not specifically drawing to any one nation or another. It just has a kind of patriotic feel to it. The only downside is there is no kind of roll call. The only explanation comes by way of that exposition. But it was fine because it was a great introduction to the title vessel. I mean, you get to see this thing burst through the waves and all of its guns unfurled and firing into action, and it was like watching a war propaganda film, but it was super badass and really cool to watch. So I really enjoyed the intro. And it kind of bleeds right into this introductory 4 episodes that served as the sort of the feature-length TV special that kicked off the whole series. So the exposition in the episodic intro is kind of stretched out and lengthened in this 4-episode run to begin with. So that was kind of laid out for me. The song itself, though, was great. I love listening to it. It's not exactly an earworm. I couldn't sing it back to you now, even after just listening to it. But it definitely fits the show. I'll give it that. Definitely fits the show. And the time. It felt like a late 70s kind of... It didn't really feel futuristic to me. Did it feel futuristic to you? Did it feel like 2052 pomp and circumstance?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So
the only thing that really felt futuristic is that you are given a small glimpse at the fact that they mention that, because we've achieved peace and because we've done this, we have put research stations on every planet in the solar system, which for me drew a slight bit of ire because I was like, I think some of them are just balls of gas. I'm not 100% sure which ones.
Yeah, I think
kind of a good idea.
I think the Jupiter plant, and we have a lot of problems with both solar system geography, I guess, and also just regular old Earth geography, which we'll get into. Oh, yeah. Golly. But I feel like for Jupiter, at least, I feel like they put it on the moon. One of the satellites around Jupiter.
Oh, like on Io or something like that?
or something, the Cowboy Bebop, Callisto to Ganymede kind of thing. So I'll give him a pass on that.
Okay.
However, I'd prefer to live in this world where there's an alien invasion and they decimate most of the population of Earth because, hey, at least we got to the point that we had world peace and research installations throughout the solar system. Because I don't think we're going to get there by 2052, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh boy. I mean, I'll say this, lofty goals,
Yes.
because especially the section and the point where he goes, because everybody has been able to work together, they've been able to use the bounty of resources that are on Earth for the benefit of mankind. And whew, I don't know, guys. I kept thinking about that, and in my brain, I was like, this sounds like a perfect utopia.
Yeah.
What a wonderful... Oh, and they're getting invaded? Still a perfect utopia.
Yeah, because guess what? Spoiler alert, it turns out totes fine for mankind. Everybody's going to be fine.
Did you just... Hold on. Did you just really say totes fine
it's totes
for
fine
mankind?
for mankind. That's my new shirt.
Oh, that's a new shirt.
Guys, I'm running for election 2020. Totes fine for mankind 2020.
Mankind.
Please. I'll start a new Patreon account just for my... That's legal, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, I love that they have this idea, and this is getting into the plot a little bit, but they have this idea that humanity by the middle of the 21st century has reached sort of this utopia where everybody's getting along, everybody's working for the betterment of everyone else, and at the same time, we've got this secret installation that has made a massive, super advanced submarine/spaceship, just in case the research station on Jupiter, I don't think you got this part, just in case the research station on Jupiter rebels and like incites war against the other colonies. It was a really weird just like line of dialogue where like they explained why they built this monstrosity to begin with. In case Jupiter rebelled. Okay, I guess. But it also comes in handy when there's an alien invasion.
I'll be honest with you. That one single sentence, if I would have heard that, I would have been like, I need an entire show about that. Because now that's the most interesting thing that has happened in this show.
That's called Gundam, and you didn't like that.
I don't like Gundam.
See?
I don't like Gundam. You're right.
But that was what I loved about Gundam, and will till my dying days. That like political intrigue between the colonies and the home planet.
I feel bad because I know that if I talk shit on Gundam during this show, you're just gonna send me another Gundam figure to assemble.
I'll send you a chibi
assemble
death
and put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, another. I'm just gonna get more Gundam action figures to assemble in the mail, and I'll be honest with you, it's a joy to put them together. They're very satisfying and fun. Yes,
they're great. I'm gonna send you a life-size Thundersub model to put together. You can just go put it out in National Harbor.
The only thing that drives me crazy about this is this feels like such a military / stoner thing to put together. It's like somebody was sitting around and they're just like, we should build like a really big sub, man. We should just get like a big sub, bro.
Dude, but I want like a spaceship, dude. Like if we're gonna build something, it should be like in space.
But like, what if it's a sub that like goes into space, bro?
Let's go get subs. Like
I want $5 footlongs.
I just want little nippers, chicken parm.
Oh my god!
Literally,
what a great memory!
Two
what a great Pittsburgh memory! Shit, there's only.
Okay, so
we could do an entire separate show that's just about Little Nippers subs.
100%.
From
I could do an
living
entire
in Pittsburgh.
show about calling Little Nippers and trying to order a sub because it was always an adventure.
Oh man!
But
I
anyway,
was buffalo chicken till I die.
Delicious. But anyway, we're gonna move on to the animation style because it is vintage late 70s anime. There's really not much else you can say about that specifically, but there's other stuff going on here. So how did it strike you?
This again, I know that I made the parallel to Macross. This is very similar style to this, and whether or not this is a chicken or the egg, this topic I think will kind of bleed a little bit into the characters. Yep. We've got Colin Collins, who looks almost identical to Rick, and then we have
who looks exactly the same as like any 80s. He looks like Keith from Voltron. He looks like a dude from Ronin Warriors. He looks like any other like red wearing or whatever wearing like mulleted dude. They all look the same.
with the like the black tuft of before like Bieber had Bieber hair. Coif that was kind of like over one eye, like real sassy.
Yeah, so sassy.
But then we've got all the females. They just look really.
When you say all the females, there were like two, right?
Just two females, like the mom and the I didn't even get from the 2 episodes that I watched.
I'll spoil that for you in a little bit.
All right, cool. But she looked almost identical to Lisa from
they all look
from Robotech.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, it's fine. It's interesting. The one thing that I will say about animation is that I really wish that they had understand how to do body proportions in this, because there are moments where they show like a weird angle, like not a weird angle. It's not like they were like whipping out Dutch angles for everything on this, but they will show an angle or like a perspective where it looked like these people were 7/8 legs and then a little torso with a head and like two arms poking out, and like, but they kept showing it and they kept doing it at different angles, but then they would do a tighter close-up shot of their torso, which made them look like they were fine, regular proportioned people. Even the guy who was in their friend group that was a little bit heavier, when they pan back, dude had giraffe legs. Like, it was so bizarre to watch.
Look, part of it was the fact that they were all kind of like, they all had like long, tall, skinny legs, but they also had super skinny, like white bell bottoms on. Everybody. That was just part of the uniform.
Yeah.
So it made them all look a lot thinner than they were. And then occasionally a black hole would pass across the top of them and stretch them out to like spaghettified proportions. I don't know why they chose to do that. But my favorite part about that is when they showed the group shots like that, this was the only way they could animate them all running in one direction. They all literally just like, they moved as like a swarm of people. They all ran at the same time, at the same pace, in the same like cluster. It was the weirdest thing to watch. It was like watching a bunch of like robots, I guess, all synced up, moving at the exact same time. Really strange to watch. That was kind of a funny little quirk of the animation. As far as the character designs, yes, they look like characters we've seen in other anime from this era, but at least the individual characters had enough distinction between them to tell them apart. So you could tell Colin from Chris, and you could tell Chris from Jamie. You could tell the humans from the Death Force or the Gothamites, even though they looked very human, just because of the color scheme, right? So the humans had kind of like a blue-white color scheme going on, and then the Gothamites had kind of like a red-gold, or red-yellow kind of scheme going on too. So at least that design was fine. Like you could keep people apart. You could the vessels and the fighter jets and stuff. Those were all different enough that you weren't super confused as to who was fighting who, and that really made a big impact on the battles, because I really think that the battles and the action sequences in this thing are stellar. They're super fun to watch. They're kinetic. There's a lot going on, but you really feel like you're like in the thick of the action. Some were better than others. The invasion felt a lot like Macross, Robotech. That was kind of all the same, but the final battle, which I don't think you got to see, but like a major like ocean battle, was pretty sweet. It was a lot of fun to watch, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. Anything else from animation style before we get into the characters?
No, I want to jump right into the characters and talk about these villains.
You get into the villains, okay? The Gothamites.
Or these Gothamites, or as I'm referring to them as the Extraordinary League of Rich White Bankers.
I think that's fair,
because these guys look nonstop like they are, for some reason, like really rich, mostly balding fat cats.
Mostly, yeah.
That are rolling up onto a planet, and they immediately are just like, well, this planet would take a little bit of work. Probably. But let's just decimate a majority of it just to be sure. You're just like, what?
Yeah, I've got so many problems with their plan
of
logic.
Here.
Yeah.
In terms of how they're actually strategizing to be able to
I want to get
this
into
over.
that in the plot, because that kind of like sets up the whole everything.
But I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, like you said, I mean, these people, like so many of these cartoons from this era and this time, they're using, really distinct colors to be able to call them out. And for this, we've got like really, very militant uniforms that are red, as well as gold accents that are on them. And then suddenly we've got this like kid business that pops up on a rotating throne out of nowhere that just, I didn't understand. When he came up, I was just like, who the fuck is this
There's
dude?
A lot of moments like that where it's just like, oh, a new person has arrived, I guess.
Yep. new contender has entered into the ring, and you're just like, yeah, you know what? I guess I'll allow it. Where else is this gonna go?
So it's actually relatively simple. It could get a lot more complicated. Even like Voltron's more complicated with their structure. But at the top of everything, there's Leader Zytel. In the English dub, he's also known as General Z.
Yeah.
So Leader Zytel was this scientist who, this is getting into the plot a little bit more, but he essentially saved as many people as he could from his home planet before it blew up, and got them on this spaceship called the Terror Star. why you would name like an ark that was going to ferry all your people off of a dying planet. Why you would name it the Terror Star, I have no idea. But he got
because
them on there.
Murder Ark was taken.
Murder Ark was taken. What else? I feel like Dino Riders had something similar.
Yeah.
Terror Storm or something. I don't know.
Yeah, terrible.
But anyway, so Leader Zytel, or General Z, is the head honcho. He was basically like, I'm the only scientist smart enough to figure out how to save you dummies, so give me all the power and I'll get you off of this. That's like a straight line of dialogue from him, actually.
Yeah. I mean, he just demagogues the whole shit out of these people.
Whatever. And then under him is a fat guy who doesn't do anything except complain. His name is General Gulf.
I love General Gulf.
The worst. He didn't do anything.
He's got a lumpy mashed potato head that I don't understand why it is lumpy and mashed potato looking.
Because he's an alien.
But that's the problem that I have with this, is that they keep contending that these people are aliens, and and they're human.
Yep.
They are human. So it makes hating these villains, which is why I wanted to get into them. It makes hating them, other than they're just older, rich white men who are Gothamites that are going to destroy the planet, it makes it really difficult not only to separate who's on a certain occasion, but it like they're not overtly aliens, so they look like us. It's really challenging to kind of hate them.
I actually like that, because the main guy, who you don't get a lot from the two guys I mentioned. You get much more from this guy, Colonel Jurgens, or Colonel Lupus, depending on the dub or the sub that you watch. Lupus. Yeah. Way to go, Lupus. English dub, you idiots. But this guy is sort of like the leader of the Death Force, right? So he's kind of like the leader of the invasion force in the Pacific Fleet. So he's kind of like, he's not a general, but he's in charge of the forces attacking Earth in this area of the Pacific. I like this guy because he's a military man. He's doing what he's been told. He's following orders. And at one point, he gets his forces decimated because they run up against something they were not expecting. And they were expecting to come in as like the superior technology, the superior force, and just wipe out us peons. And some of our defenses, we won't get into that yet, just cut through everything. And he wanted to go after this thing, and his orders from his superiors were like, no, you need to come home now because that's not important. He has a really interesting arc just in this first 4 episodes, because it's more about revenge, but it's also about honor. It's about bravery and courage and doing the right thing, but also sort of stepping out of bounds a little bit and being a little bit rebellious to make sure that he gets what he wants at the end of the day. So I actually really like this guy.
Yeah,
it was
cool.
Good.
Let's get into this. Anything else about villains?
That was really it. It was just those 3. We didn't get any of the soldiers on the ground. We got nothing from like the sort of foot soldiers or like the general infantry. Nothing like that. They were just fodder. Yeah. They were just blowing up left and right. So we didn't learn anything more about them. Yeah.
Just remember, in order of importance, we've got Z, Golf, Lupus.
Z, Golf, Lupus. In that
Z,
order.
Golf, Lupus.
Z, Golf, Lupus.
Oh boy. Now let's get over to this sad sack of kids.
Oh man, this is just a pile of orphans all stacked up in a sub.
I want to say this. As I'm watching this, friend of the show, Melanie Harker, makes the comment, are all the voice actors who are these kids on Quaaludes? Because they all seem completely unable to have any inflection in their voice.
Hello,
the inflection is completely the opposite of what it should be, and there is zero emotion for the heavy weight and gravity that is happening during this actual Earth invasion. Look, and it's off-putting. It's confusing.
I'll give him a bit of a pass on that. I didn't think it wasn't great. The adults are definitely better. The Captain Noah is fantastic. Even the Dr. Collins, he's okay. But the kids, they have to match what's called the mouth flaps, right? So this animation's already done. They're trying to force a different language into it and also try to make it make somewhat sense and also try to say Thundersub a bunch. So it's tough. I'm not going to give them a complete pass because you can still sell it in your performance. But
I'm going to take you to task on this just because they're shooting a majority of Collins' interaction with Collins Sr., the father, from like an overhead angle.
Yeah, you're right.
Coming down onto their face, so you can barely, like, the mouth flaps, as you're putting it, is just like right out of the side of.
Yeah, you're right.
like right out of the side. And the dad has a giant mustache, and so
everything.
he's even like his little mouth flaps are like.
It's Beaker and Bunsen over here.
Yeah, it's oh my god, it's so ridiculous to think that somebody could have just like you could have just moved a mustache back and forth on somebody's face, and I would have been like, yeah, you know what?
Nailed it.
You nailed it. Perfect. Everybody should have facial hair in anime, is what I'm trying to say.
Agreed.
Just cover up those flaps.
Ladies,
I want to see
children.
your flaps. No flaps. This is a no flap zone.
No flap zone. All right, that's a fair point. It was bad.
It was just, I thought it was just really
one
bad.
of my favorite ones was where's that guy? I have a list of like all the stuff that he's saying. Oh, there's like a Gothamite scientist, and he's laying out the composition of the Earth, and he's like, the atmosphere is quite different, but could be adapted. Gravity is strong. Too much water. Okay, that's your delivery.
Yeah.
All right, too much water. Done.
But with a little bit of facelift, we could make it inhabitable.
Yeah, it's like you're not
all
robots.
right, cool.
You're just real bad at this. Too much water.
Somebody restart Gothamite.exe.
Yikes.
That program has run out of memory.
But you know what? I mean, for the most part, it gave me a lot of laughs unintentionally because the delivery of it or like the timing of it was just so off that it was hilarious.
I volleyed back and forth because there were definitely some unintentional giggles in all of this, but there was also an intense amount of frustration from me watching this where I was like, oh boy, like I know it's 1979. We're redubbing this for an American audience probably a couple years later. Fair enough.
Yeah, and they paid him in like pizza and beer, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. They paid him in whatever the Voltron bucks payments were whenever they did their translation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, $5 lion, and it's just some of it's bad, some of it's laughably bad, but I think the underlying current that we have or thread is just bad.
I gotta say, Colin Collins, terrible name.
Holy shit,
he was really bad early on. They got better once they got into the sub because it's very much like a Star Trek bridge situation where you only have short little snippets of dialogue, and it's not really it's a back and forth, but it's not a conversation. It's an order and it's a response. And once I get into that mode, everything flowed a lot better.
Yeah.
When they try to have conversations like, "Hello, Father. I am your son and have not seen you in a long time." It's like, let's get to
congratulations on getting accepted to Academy.
Oh, ha, 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 ha. That was 8 months ago.
Mom, better late than never.
Christ.
What?
I got to tell you, the laughs, whenever like
whenever
more than two dudes got together, someone always told a joke that made no fucking sense. And then all of them would just go, ha, 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 ha. Like, have you ever laughed before? This is not how people laugh.
I found myself, this is a character. We're moving now into like actual dialogue and the writing of this show. So excuse us for a little bit, but there were moments that I found the character Jamie really fucking annoying.
Yeah, no, Jamie was super annoying. Yeah.
Jamie was super annoying. And then there were moments that in the episodes I watched where Jamie would be like, "Hey guys," and I would just out loud go, "Shut the fuck up, Jamie. Shut the fuck up,
because
Jamie."
Because you knew it was coming, right? He's the quote unquote comedic relief. Even though he's not. He's just kind of like a goof, and he's supposed to come in and lighten things up. Like to the point that this alien invasion is happening. He's like, "Oh, thank God that test is canceled." Like, fuck you, Jamie. Like literally everyone just got orphaned.
I just to set the stage, the gravity of what Dave is talking about right now. All right, their school has been bombed by an unknown alien spacecraft. Yeah. There are literally like it's Jamie, Colin Collins, and Chris, and they are all running towards the school, and it is decimated. Like it is blown to pieces. Yep. And there are just men in suits laying on the ground. You're just like, Sean, well, why wouldn't there be? No, there's not. That's not how this works. There could be men, women, and children, but it's just older dudes in brightly colored suits.
And our guys have to check each one of them, which was so tough to watch because it's just like, leave the men alone.
I also want to say there's scientists. At no point in time did anybody take any vitals of anybody because I think it was Chris's dad was just laying there and he never even like checked his pulse. Like he could have been okay, but he was like, "Yeah,
I didn't know what they were doing." I thought Colin I didn't know if he was just like flipping him over and being like, nope, not my dad. Fuck you. And then moving to the next guy. Or if he was actually like checking his pulse. I don't know what they were doing, but it was really grim. Really grim.
And we just got this dead dad club that's outside of their fucking school. And these kids are like,
crushed and exploded dead dad club.
And these kids, and this is what's incredible about this, is that they are emoting because you can tell that they're crying. Yeah. And that's only through the animation. Yeah. Through the voice acting and dialogue from this dub, they're just like, Dad.
Yeah, your first one was actually pretty good.
Better Dad. Well, time to go find the shuttle to get the hell out of here. You're just like, whoa.
Spring break.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that.
God, all right.
It's like Lord of the Flies meets Girls Gone Wild. But, okay, so Sean was setting all this up to talk about Jamie, because they like peek over all this like rubble and debris and just like destruction everywhere. And Jamie literally says like, oh, I guess that test is canceled. Just like, fuck you, Jamie.
Fuck you, Jamie.
They should have left him behind, honestly. They should have Kirk Cameroned him, just leave him behind. He's not going to help anybody. But he's a comedic relief. And they also pick up a random girl on the way.
Who has no name. And they ask her, they're like, what's your deal? And she says nothing.
She says nada.
Hey, Chris, is that your sister? No.
That was such a weird... I didn't know what was going to happen. Because one dude was like, hey, is that your sister? The other guy was like, no. I didn't know if he was going to be like, awesome. Or like,
she want to get on this shuttle of dudes who's about to go to fucking spring break.
Apparently, yeah. Even though she never said a word. We need to talk about Anna for a second. And I'm going to spoil some stuff. We're going to get into a little bit of plot here before we jump into
I have an idea. Is this the girl? Is her name Anna?
Her name is Anna.
I have an idea about her.
What's up?
I think that she's a Gothamite.
As far as I know, she's not.
Oh, okay. Whoops.
But, I mean, that's fair. That would have been interesting. More interesting than what actually happens. Maybe parallel.
Is she one of the people's daughters?
Yes. So we'll let's save that for the plot. Let's just say that she's more interesting. What doesn't make sense with her is she doesn't speak for this entire first episode. In the next episode, she gets a line of dialogue out of nowhere, and people know who she is. So apparently they've like gotten to know her off camera, which is a weird decision to make.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's just her and 50 dudes on spring break. Poor Anna. Let's see if there's anybody else we should talk about. We should probably talk about Captain Noah, unless you want to talk about him when he shows up in the show.
Yeah, let's get into. We've already been hinting. Let's get into these. Oh,
there's also Flight Lieutenant Domingo from Bermuda, but I'm not even gonna bother with him because he doesn't really do much. This is terrible Bermudan accent. This is this blonde German-looking dude shows up in a crashed fighter jet. We're like, we'll get to him later. He sets up the series after these first 4 episodes, so he's not super important.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
All right, so let's set it up again. It's 2052. Earth has it all sorted out.
Check.
Everybody's getting along together. We got research stations across the solar system. It's all great.
Check.
Then these fuckers show up.
Check.
And everything goes to shit.
Check.
Okay, cool. How do we find out that an alien civilization is spying on us?
Because we happen to be able to capture a meteorite.
Sure.
And then we used a geoscan to determine that there's something blocking the path. And so we use a laser and we cut it open. Turns out satellite inside the meteorite. It's the most advanced satellite inside of a meteorite that we've ever seen, which leads me to believe that we come across a lot of satellites and meteors.
Yeah, to the point that we've honed this laser to cut this meteorite in a precise way to not damage the satellite. How the fuck would you put a satellite in a meteor to begin with? I love how many times they use lasers for a variety of things. You can use a laser to cut open a fake meteorite, like a hide a key in a rock. You can use lasers to just make laser transmissions. That's fun.
Sure.
You can use lasers to shoot stuff down like a pinwheel laser. You can use that to shoot down ships later. That was pretty cool. Lots of lasers here, guys, because it's the 70s and 80s, and what are you going to do? How quickly, Sean, if you were a laser meteorite specialist guy, how quickly would you jump to the conclusion, this is an alien invasion, we're all fucked?
Instantaneous.
Okay, good, because that's what they do too, and they're obviously the expert. So I'm glad that that's your first thought. Not like the Russians are spying on us, not like the Chinese are spying on us.
I also love the fact that out of these scientists, we've got one lead scientist and we have 2 that look like twins that are behind them. One is wearing glasses and the other one is not. and they have zero inflection in their voices. Like, it's amazing.
What was wrong with everyone's nose in this show?
I don't know. There's one point where they pan over a series of faces, and it's just people's faces in the UN almost looked identical, except for the different shapes of their noses. Yeah. They're just like, you know what?
Weird triangles.
We spent a lot of money on these brightly colored suits and these little tiny stupid eyes. So we're just gonna change the crook of everybody's nose, and gotcha.
Yeah, real strange.
UN.
The crowd shots are some of my favorites. There's one, I think it's the very last episode when they pan across. There's like some weird ass dude that looks like he's half melted. He looks like a half melted John Lennon with like the sunglasses on. It's an amazing one. I got to find a screenshot of it, but he just looks like a squiggle creature with John Lennon face on. It's really strange. Okay, so we've instantly jumped to the conclusion that an alien civilization is here, so let's gather the UN and we'll sort things out. That's pretty much what leads to the destruction and all the dads dying. Now, let's talk about the 200 million Gothamites on this space-traveling terror star for a second. Let's just talk logic.
And yes, you heard Dave correct that Captain Z or General Z, Leader Z has been able to put 200 million surviving Gothamites. You actually don't know how big their civilization really is.
It seems like Gotham was a pretty big planet, because he makes a comment later on where, like, I don't know how we're going to share a planet this small with another advanced race. It kind of has to be us or them. So that was his stance on it. So we imagine that the original race was probably significantly larger, I'd guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that just means that, like, when he made the executive decision to say, I can save, I need complete power, and I can only save 200 million of you, the people were just like, ooh, I better get to work on.
I better get to purging.
Yeah, right. Jesus Christ.
So, I mean, that's a fantastic technical achievement. You've managed to make a spaceship that can house 200 million people for 30 years in the hopes that because they couldn't save their planet. Very, very Superman Krypton here. This is 100% Superman Krypton. Krypton exploded.
And why is their planet? Why is Gotham going to be destroyed?
That I didn't get. I just knew that they couldn't stop it.
Did you not?
No, I didn't get that.
Oh, no. It's in the second episode. They talk about the fact that there is a roving black hole.
Oh, you're right.
There is a roving black hole.
Can't stop that.
Which, I'm going to be honest with you, didn't realize that black holes could move.
Oh, yeah, they rove. I mean, like anything else in the cosmos that kind of like will move about.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At least that's
this is
theory.
like, I'm asking like a serious question.
No. As
like,
far as I know,
black holes,
that's
seriously,
theory.
They can roam wherever they want to?
Yeah, it's not just like a finite...
Roam around the world?
roam where you want to. Yeah, it's not just like, as far as I know, it's not just like a finite point. Like, I believe that they can move.
Now, I always thought it was because space was contracting and expanding around them, that they could pull things in based on the gravity that was in a black hole. This is a total armchair theory. I have no idea. Guess what? We don't either. We've never actually been to a black hole.
Or have we?
Black
holes are flat. You heard it here first.
Oh!
Yeah, so, okay, black hole does a drive-by, nukes this planet. I love that the terror star can get away, but the planet gets pulled apart, but whatever.
Yeah.
So technological achievement saved most of his, well, maybe let's call it 2% of his civilization. And then they're just floating through space for 30 years looking for a habitable planet. There's actually a lot going on behind the scenes here, and Leader Z is not telling you everything that's actually going on, but that's for the main series. Is it smart, even though you've got 200 million people, even if they're all soldiers, even if you've got enough equipment and food and weaponry and all this stuff, to mobilize all of them? Is it smart to pit 200 million people in one spaceship against a planet of billions when that's the place you need to live, rather than just say, hey, I know we're like space refugees and we just kind of showed up. We're kind of close to you, biologically speaking. Can you give us like Australia or something? Can we like work something out? We can like terraform Antarctica maybe? Like, can we just hang out? Or no, we're just going to use our superior military power and just wipe you out.
I'll be honest, when they made the executive decision to go all in,
instantly,
you never you never go all in on this. It seems ridiculous, like you're saying, and I know, I get this. If you're listening to this and you're just like, Sean, it's a cartoon. It was scripted.
No, I get it.
These were things that happened. Like, I 100% get that. But I think they're, in terms of the amount of time that this cartoon demonstrates process and tries to give you a glimpse into exactly what's actually going on here, I don't think that having a delegate come down and watching diplomatic relations break down quickly between the Gothamites and the people of Earth would be so out of the league of this cartoon.
I will say, though, that it did get us into the action pretty quickly, because they go from arrival to invasion like instantly. They're like, this is it. This is the place we want to terraform. Let's just scrub all intelligent life out of the way and just make it our own place. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, they have no plan of ruling the people that are there. They're like, we're just going to clean them out, set up a new planet, and then presumably they're going to continue to look for other life on other planets to hopefully try to to try to terraform, somewhere else.
I'll say this. If the Gothamites are better with geography than the people in the show are, maybe they deserve to rule. Because we don't know where Hawaii is in the show. I even double checked it, because I was like, I don't think it's that close. I'm like, A, that's definitely Japan, and B, I was like, I don't think it's that close that you could even make that mistake.
They pointed on the map in this show that Southeast Asia is Hawaii. And that was
because it was a super racist bonkers. English dub. They were like, the only surviving base in the world is based in Hawaii, and they point at Japan. I'm like, motherfuckers, like that's not cool, man. Like, you took this anime from Japan. You're not even gonna give Japan, like, you've got one in Bermuda. You got a base in Bermuda. There you go, America. Everything's totally fine. No, now you have to have Hawaii. Okay.
So this brings up a question that I have for you then, is that we've understood that there are 9 research bases that are on the planet Earth. In indicating this to your audience, would you spend 30 to 45 seconds with a montage that just shows bases? Do you think that would be a good use of your time as you're sort of touching down into this show?
I would 100% pay individual animators to make really highly detailed drawings of each of these individually unique bases that we have no idea what they do or what their purpose is, and they are destroyed 30 seconds later. But it's a solid use of your time.
It was so frustrating, because as Dave has mentioned, we have bad dialogue as I have mentioned, we have bad dialogue for a majority of this. We have a narrator that kind of cues us in on some of the finer points and details that we need in terms of context. And then we get this like 30 to 45 second montage of base N1 through N9, and there is no narration. It is silent.
Just music. Just like pleasant music, looking at these sweet bases. I was okay with it because I thought maybe there was going to be more mythology to it. Nope. The only ones that survived are like 1 and 9, which is quote unquote Hawaii and Bermuda. And I was like, okay, weird. That's a weird choice, but fine, I guess. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, before we kind of wrap this one up, and I'll give you a real brief idea of how these 4 episodes wrap up, I want to talk about orphans.
Sure.
And why all of these characters become orphans like instantaneously. That actually really hit me fairly hard, because it was like, it wasn't just one kid. It wasn't just 2 kids. They concocted another story to bring a 3rd orphan in. And then they were just like, oh, well, she's not an orphan, but she lost her brothers. So her estranged father is the only one left in her family. It's just like, fuck, like this whole, it's just an orphan sub. It's an entire sub like piloted by orphans. It's crazy how far they go.
Oh my God. Orphan sub and Orphan Thundersub.
Orphan Thundersub. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
But I'm being a jerk. You said that this had some real emotional gravity to it.
Oh, no. I thought the writing was like well done enough that it wasn't just like, oh, it's a chosen one who's orphaned and he has to go on and save the day. It was like all these kids experience like a very mass traumatic event. So obviously, like a lot of things in Japanese anime, Godzilla, all that stuff stems from World War II and the 2 atomic bombs that were dropped. That's just going to be part of the culture pretty much forever. So you can kind of see that parallel here, that there's like this mass destructive event, and then all these kids are affected by it. And then it's weird because sometimes they just kind of like get together, they go party in a shuttle, and then they go to like a beach for an episode, which was weird. But at the same time, they're all orphaned. So the main kid, Colin Collins, gets to say goodbye to his father. His father gives him this pendant that, allows the action to carry on with the Thundersub and all that. And then he has to say goodbye to his father. He never gets to see his mother, so we don't know if she survived or not. And
No.
doubtful.
She was in the school, and the school exploded.
Yeah, just dead men in suits everywhere. So his dad dies. He gets a pendant. Cool. That normally in any other show, that would be it. Everybody would carry on from there. The very next beat is his buddy Chris turning and being like, oh, I didn't check that man in a suit. Oh, it's my dad. Oh, he's dead. He doesn't even get to say goodbye to him. He just basically is just like, well, that's my dad and he's dead. So like these two bros now have both lost their father and their entire family in the same day. Because the next thing we do is we get on a shuttle and they try to go to everybody else's house, right? Chris finds out his entire family's wiped out. So these bros are now like orphan bros. So, okay, cool. We're done with like the orphan shit, right? No, fucking Jamie shows up and he's like, oh, by the way, my parents both died when I was 5.
Shut the fuck up,
5 years
Jamie.
ago, whatever. We're just like, the fuck? Like, at least they acknowledge it. They're like, oh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Like, that was a cool line of dialogue for me because like you never talk about stuff like that. He's like, I just don't like to talk about it. I'm like, holy shit, that's like an actual like deep character moment for him.
Except that like it's almost undercut by the fact that he's just like, man, you've been alone this entire time, and then followed by spring break.
Yeah, that was a little weird where they're just like, well, it's a shuttle full of orphans, so what else are they going to do but go on spring break, Lord of the Flies style. I don't quite get how they went from like, let's go to this beach to let's get sucked into a whirlpool to let's swim through this cave to let's find this massive sub underground to let's put jumpsuits on to let's activate the sub and it'll destroy the island. Like there's a bunch of crazy shit that happens to get this thing moving. But by the end of this episode, like, how did this end? Because I watched them all together. What was the final thing that we see at the end? Was it the sub kind of like breaking free from the island?
No, so it was the submarine at the end of episode 2 breaking free from the island, which I think was a hilarious choice because you like, how did you think that this was going to?
You built it like into the island.
What scientist was like, we're gonna build it into the island and then we're gonna destroy the island when we get like. And again, that research base could have continued to exist for a good reason, to maybe sub-maintenance.
Repairs.
They could have done any...
Nope, fuck it. Blow it up.
No, fuck it. Get rid of everything. So they get rid of this entire thing, and in this moment, there is another submarine that finds them.
It's a tiny submarine. So
little tiny submarine that
Tempest
sync docks with everything. Yeah. And so this thing space docks with the actual Thundersub. Yep. And
now
in that
keep in
moment,
mind, the Thundersub is being crewed and piloted by a bunch of like kids on spring break who are all orphans now.
Right.
Just to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And so this is the moment where suddenly the Gothamites find them and they begin an attack. And I think that this was General Lupus, who is piloting one of these ships, and they're firing upon the Thundersub. And in this moment, now they have this captain, or from the tiny sub, that now has just been like, battle stations, everybody, like, and they're able to they take over. They're able to enact a plan. They destroy and deploy a shit ton of munitions to destroy so many of these Gothamites, which is cool because you're finally seeing the strength of Thundersub.
You're seeing the title thing in action, which is what you wanted to see the whole time.
Yeah, because you don't see it for the whole first episode. You only get the whisper of a dying man in a
says
suit.
Thundersub.
Thundersub.
There are 3 moments where Thundersub is said to unintentionally hilarious effect. The first one is when Crawford Collins dies, and his last dying words to his son are like, "I love you and take care of yourself," and also Thundersub. The next terrible use of it is when the kid finally gets to the ship and he's like, "Oh, I don't know, my dad said like something right before he died, and right before the last mortal breath fled from his collapsing frail shell of humanity. Thundersub." Like the whole ship comes alive. And then the worst one, and here's another spoiler for you. We find that Anna is the estranged daughter of Captain Noah.
Okay.
And we learn why. So his like second in command, he's like, I noticed that you and the girl like seem to know each other. He's like, yes, she is my daughter. And he's like, not being too forward, like, why don't you speak? And he's like, the captain's like, he's looking at a picture of like his family. He's like, well, in a word, Thundersub. I fucking lost it.
What?
I lost it. So apparently he had been working so much on Thundersub that he like kind of neglected his family. His wife became ill. He still worked on Thundersub, so she died.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he just Thundersubbed it. And then he stops her in a hallway and he asks her, he's like, I know you don't want to talk to me or be seen with me and you don't forgive me, but are your brothers still alive? And she's like, no, they're dead. He's like, well, he's like, we're the last two that we have, so hopefully someday you can forgive me. She's like, fuck, man. The worst part with Anna is the boys all talk for her most of the time. So when they're like, oh, that's Anna, she's not a student, but she said she'll cook for us, and she's a pretty good cook. Like, fuck you. Come on, man. You can do better than that.
Yeah. There's some really terrible sexist overtones of Anna being like meek and not being able to, which I'll say, at least for Macross, the women that we had that were on there, were depicted as they should be, badass and fucking strong and commanding shit.
And knocking the idiot protagonists around,
Yeah, God, she just felt like she was. She felt like she was the. Yeah, she's the princess from Ico. Just
noodle arm dragging around.
Yep, 100%.
She doesn't get any better in the final two episodes, right? So essentially, what happens is we really get to see the kids kind of like come into their own. They actually they crew Tempest Junior, which is the smaller sub. So they crew it under like the second in command from Thundersub. So Thundersub, second in command, captains the junior sub, and he trains up his team of recruit. So it's actually really cool to get to see these kids, because it would be weird if the kids were just like, I'm in charge of Thundersub now, and I got my first mustache hairs. Like, it's not, to see them, see them do that would be super fucking weird. But to watch them actually like learn and experience things, and they montage it and they speed it up and say like, oh, they've been training rigorously for weeks now and they should be able to handle anything. That's fine. They give them a couple of missions. There's some really cool clashes between the Gothamite forces and the Thundersub team. There's some super cool weapons on display. One from the Gothamites is this like whirlpool torpedo where they launch this thing and it detonates but forms this massive whirlpool under the water that the sub gets caught in. Thundersub gets caught in. So you're watching this like giant like Pirates of the Caribbean looking whirlpool, and Thundersub is like caught on the side of it trying to like go up to the surface. I don't know why you wouldn't just go down to the bottom where the rest of the water is, because you're a fucking submarine, but whatever.
I don't know, man.
So they're like trying to crest this thing and they're just getting blasted by all these ships, and it was a really cool moment to watch. They obviously get out of it, and then they get to deploy their big gun, which is essentially like the death ray laser, the Death Star gun, essentially. It's called an anti-proton gun, to like decimate one of these heavy water facilities for the Gothamites. That was a super cool moment. All
right.
So as these episodes progressed, there's a lot cooler stuff that happened. And then by the time you get to the fourth episode, that's when this random Lieutenant Domingo pops up and he's like, we need to go to Bermuda. I don't know why he's Swedish, but he's like, we need to go to Bermuda. Oh, why are they going to Bermuda? Because that's where the aerospace whatever upgrade is. So you can take this sub and fly it into fucking space, my friend.
Yeah, you 100% go to Bermuda for that shit. Hands down.
Always launch from Bermuda.
Hands down.
I gotta say, only one other funny gaffe, and I think I'm spent on Thundersub for the night. When that scene is being revealed between, there's a conversation between Captain Noah and Anna in the hallway about, did your brothers survive? No. Well, we're the last two of the family, so we need to stick together. When that happens, Colin Collins is there the whole time. He's like, should I go? And the captain's like, no, you can hear this. It's fine. So he's just standing there awkwardly, just the three of them. The captain leaves. Anna's standing in the hallway and Colin's standing next to her. There's no there's no sound. There's no dialogue. He's standing stock still. He just like glances over at her. Just his eyes move. And then he looks back at the camera and then it cuts. It's the most awkward fucking thing I've ever seen. He's just like, huh? Yeah. It's so weird. I don't know what if that was an artifact, if there was supposed to be some narration. I don't know, but it's really funny to watch. So
Oh man,
that's it. I think that's it for me and Thundersub. But I had a blast with this one. I had a lot of fun.
good.
Oh boy.
So we obviously have some opinions, but guess what?
What?
Turns out people on the internet have opinions as
How
well.
about that? At least 2 people on the internet have opinions. But no more than 2 people, because that's all we could find for this one. Normally we do love it, hate it. There was no hate it for this one again. Second week in a row, I believe. So do you want to take the first love it?
Yeah, here we go. So this is No Face Monster from Sri Lanka in 2013. It says, one of my first animes ever. I have only a very little memory of it because this is one of my first animes I've seen. I saw it when I was around 5 years old back in the mid 80s. It was shown in national TV channel for Saturday morning cartoons. It was amazing and I loved every bit of it. It was called, quote, Thundersub, end quote. I even wanted my birthday cake to look like the ship. That's actually
that's a really cool idea, actually.
It was that good. If you are into classic anime with some good storyline and sea battle, go for this. You won't regret. I am in search of the series to see again. The quality of animation may not be up to the current day standards, but keep in mind that good anime is not only the graphics of it, but the story as well. It's an awesome tale of a sub and its crew fighting against evil.
Thundersub.
10 out of 10 stars for Thundersub from No Face Monster.
Oh god, I don't know how to say this name.
Vajsav.
God.
What? That's what the name is.
It's Vajsav81 from Brighton.
Yeah. Brighton.
Also their first anime. This is also weirdly from 2013. It was my first anime when I was 8 to 9 years old. At that period, I didn't know what anime meant. It is still in my heart. A very nice plot, which is very moving. The Earth is united against aliens without discrimination between nations, without flags. We all know how the USA flag looks like. And without the usual propaganda that you can see nearly in every movie, especially if they are produced in a particular country. I feel like maybe America's not. They're not a big fan of America? Maybe. I never had the chance to watch all the episodes because they weren't available on TV. I think only half of them or even less. I would like to watch it now in Japanese with English subs. I managed to find only one episode, the 26th, I believe that's the last one, on YouTube. How can I find the whole series? 10 out of 10 stars. Well, not a big fan of us here in the States, but understandable. Understandable.
Fair.
All right, buddy. What about you? Thundersub, Space Carrier Blue Noah. Do you recommend it? And if not, does it get the dip?
Oh, man. I recommend this.
Nice.
I recommend this despite a lot of problems with this show, which I think were because of the translation. I will say that from watching 2 of the 4 episodes for this first part miniseries, I feel like it could have been condensed into maybe one 10-minute episode, and I still would have got the gist of it. But I'm recommending this because I'm curious to watch the next 2 episodes to see some of these additional battles now that I've actually had a chance to see the namesake of the show in action. And so, I think that shows, I guess, that notably have this criticism that we've talked about recently were Neon Genesis Evangelion, where we actually didn't get a chance to see a battle between some of these titular characters. This show is literally no different, where it takes you almost 2 full episodes to finally see one laser battle. And even then, it's just like, I don't feel like I'm getting the full weight of what this is capable of. And so I'm interested to stick around to watch those other 2 episodes. And I kind of want to see this thing blast off from Bermuda into space.
Yeah, so from what I understand, it takes them a while to get to Bermuda. After that, things get pretty crazy. But you'll see more like sea battles between here and there. I really enjoyed this, so I'm going to strongly recommend it. I think it was a lot of fun. The fact that it showed up before Macross, Robotech, some of that other stuff. It's definitely an earlier version of a story that we've seen before, if that makes sense. So yeah, we've seen this same story and the same kind of like plots and characters and stuff kind of play out, but It actually came earlier than a lot of the other ones, so I'll give it some credit for that. I thought it was a lot of fun. I like that the characters were kids and they were allowed to be kids under the tutelage of a more experienced staff, because that opens up the possibilities of, they form these bonds with these mentors and these teachers, and it's a war. So if some of those teachers happen to sacrifice themselves or happen to get killed in the process, then these kids have to step up to the plate after they're orphaned once again and actually like grow into their adult roles. And I think that's a lot of interesting area for storytelling. So I did watch the first 4 episodes. It was a blast, literally. I love watching these battles.
Oh.
The Thundersub is super cool. It's not just like a cheesy thing. I mean, this thing has some gravity to it. So it was a lot of fun. I recommend it.
Cool.
And thanks to Oleg for reminding us and pinging us. Since like April, he's been telling us to watch this one. So I'm glad we finally got it done, buddy. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Oleg. Appreciate it,
All right,
man.
cool. No dip tonight. That's good news. So Sean, buddy, what's going on with you in the next couple of weeks, and where can listeners out there get a hold of you?
Guys, as always, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group that's called Nox. That's Nox ! And we perform for Washington Improv Theater. You can find tickets and times witdc.org. I also organize a festival called the District Improv Festival, which is probably happening around the time that this episode is coming out, or within the next week. It's September 6th to the 9th. You can find show times and you can buy tickets. It is at districtimprov.org. And as always, I am on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis. Dave, what's up with you?
Well, first of all, you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me on collider.com, nerdist.com, and davetrumbore.com. If you're interested in finding out more about this particular show right here, we would love it if you stopped over at our Patreon page, patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, that's a morning with a U. Even if you can't contribute to our monthly Patreon account there, it'd be great if you could just share a link over social media and let folks out there know that we have an account up and running. And we want to say thank you again to the people who have contributed. You really help us do quite a bit here behind the scenes, and we appreciate it. Other places you can find us online, check out our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. On Twitter, you can find us at MorningToons. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page, keep the conversation going on Facebook, and listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. As always, like Oleg, you can reach out to us through Facebook, or like other folks, drop us an email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. That's going to wrap it up for listener suggestions for this month. However, I can't believe it's September already. We got something special, something north of the border coming at you the next couple of weeks.
What?
North of the border.
Sounds like you talk about America's hat.
America's hat. I want to move to America's hat.
You know what?
I want to move to America's hat.
I have a lot of friends up in Canada. I love.
You guys are doing it
and they
right.
are fantastic. They've got a lot of stuff going on
Well,
up there.
we're thawing out a lot of their land up there, so I feel like there's going to be more real estate soon.
I mean, they have whole territories that I think are basically uninhabited. So
next week we're going to come from the Yukon. SMC Yukon special. It'll be great.
Why does it sound like it's going to be like a CSI episode?
It does. Something's gone wrong, I think.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, we got a whole bunch of Canadian cartoons coming at you. To find out specifically which ones we're talking about, you're going to have to subscribe to our newsletter, and you can do that through our Patreon page. But that's enough of a tease for now. Anything else from you, buddy?
Oh, man, let's get into this. Can't wait to go north of the border.
Great. Thank you so much again for listening, and we will see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.